1. This happened to me during the summer between middle school and high school. My drug addict older brother Jason had just moved out of my mom's garage. They had a falling out over something, and it was a relief when he was gone. Not long after that, I moved into the garage in his place. I had only been living in there less than a week when it happened. I was vegging on some good old-fashioned MMO gaming with a group of friends when I excused myself to go to the bathroom. Since the door to the garage was separate from the house, I stepped onto the porch and went over to the back slider. There was a sticky note on it that informed me my family had gone to the store and would be back soon. This immediately made me nervous, as I would have preferred to have been told, but I brushed it off and went inside. Our two large dogs, Bella and Sadie, harmless but intimidating, were sleeping behind a baby gate separated into my mom's bedroom and what was once mine, but now in the process of being made into a playroom for my 3-year-old niece, Kate. There wasn't really much furniture left in it, other than some toys and 2 plush chairs, so the door was closed to discourage the dogs from going in there. They weren't destructive and were allowed to roam as they wanted for the most part, but one of them, Bella, had a habit of eating whatever she could find, so when we weren't home they were usually crated, or kept out of places they could eat things, aka the kitchen. The bathroom door was just before the gate, so I said hello and went in. I closed the door, locked it, did my business and washed my hands. After that, since I was there, I grabbed a hold of my hairbrush. Then I heard it. I thought I was crazy at first. Sometimes I wonder if I still am. The latchable door to the baby gate clicked open, which isn't something any of our animals were capable of doing. I heard movement before the distinct sound of dog collars passing by the door. Bella and her sister Sadie didn't bark or growl. They just rushed by, straight toward the kitchen. I was paralyzed with fear and I didn't dare move. I held my breath with a hand over my mouth, extremely worried. Our dogs were lovable, but if this had been a stranger, they would have been barking. Whoever had let them out of the gate knew them. I tried to tell myself that maybe it was my family, but considering they'd gone and they weren't exactly the type of people to come home quietly, I knew that was a mistake. It got worse from there, and I will never forget the sound of the bedroom door that was mine less than a week ago creaking open slowly. There was a long pause, and I heard either Bella or Sadie come close to the gate again briefly, before she went back toward the kitchen. What felt like an eternity passed in complete deafening silence, only to be stopped suddenly by an echo of the baby gate clicking shut. It seemed like hours until I could hear the back door slide open and closed, followed by more silence. I didn't move. What was I supposed to do? There was no telling if whoever was in there had actually left or not. And at the time, it wasn't exactly common for people to have cell phones, especially kids my age. So I had no way of contacting my family or even calling the police. Eventually, I worked up the nerve and pushed the door open. Almost immediately, Bella and Sadie ran up to me for attention before wandering off again, seeming unfazed. But still on the opposite side of the gate they'd been on before I'd entered the bathroom. The door to Kate's new playroom was open just a bit, enough for someone to peer inside, despite having been closed before that. I convinced myself it was all in my head, but hid in the bathroom until I heard my family come home. After explaining what had happened, the police were called and canvassed the area, but found nothing. Our home backed up to a park that was notorious for suspicious night activity, so anyone could have hopped the fence easily. My mother had a theory that it was probably Jason trying to break in to steal money for more drugs, and I didn't argue, but I didn't agree with her. If it had been Jason, it would have been even more unnerving that the person in question had only looked in the room that was once mine, and hadn't seemed to be shifting around looking for money. I was a teenager, I didn't exactly have money in there. Deep down I was terrified it was one of Jason's many creepy old drug addict friends that he always brought by. They were always really unnerving, and stared at me in ways that made me extremely uncomfortable. I was scared that they were stalking the house before they saw my family leave without me. And since they wouldn't know I was in the garage and I'd taken down the "we're going to the store" note, it probably looked as if I was home alone and in my room. I hate to think what would have happened had I been. I don't even know if this really happened or if I was overreacting, but to the person who walked into my place and was comfortable enough that my dogs didn't react, let's not meet again. 2. So this story is mostly my friends, but I was involved too. Carrie has not had good luck with men. Honestly, I think her taste in men is pretty bad in general, but she is a great friend and lovely girl and deserves the best, which she was not getting from the douchebags of dating past. So I was happy for her when she started dating Jack in college. Her roommate and good friend at the time was dating a guy, and Jack was often the third and fourth wheel when the four hung out. So 2 good friends dating 2 good friends. I've never met Jack, but from descriptions and pictures he sounded like a decent guy compared to the others. He was a bit of a bum, he didn't have a job and lived with his parents, but he was genuinely nice and respectful, which was a positive change. And when he started dating Carrie, it seemed to lift him a bit out of his bad habits, and he got a job and began thinking about going to college. He wasn't the most attractive and he was shy, so I think dating Carrie was his first relationship. I thought that the relationship seemed pretty healthy. So they date for maybe 9 months and Carrie doesn't see the relationship going anywhere. Jack is definitely in a better place than when they started, but Carrie didn't enjoy certain things about him that seemed weird. For instance, he would smoke weed with his dad. Once Jack and Carrie were having a smoke together and the dad comes home from work and joins them. I understand this is normal for some people, but unaccustomed to it, I think you can understand that it felt weird. Another thing that happened, which we joke about today, is that he tried to eat her boogers on 2 different occasions, and had a thing for wanting to stick his tongue in her nose. Weird, gross. Also, I was once hanging out with them towards the start of the end of their relationship, and made them into a household on The Sims 4, and when I asked him what's your ambition, he got really offended. I explained it was part of the character creation process, but apparently he bitched about that and how rude I was for asking long after I left. Carrie eventually left him, but he begged and convinced her to take him back. He even begged me to tell her to get back with him, saying, and I copied this from our chat, "I'd rather die than give up on winning her back." They got back together, but the relationship didn't improve, of course. So a month or 2 later she tried again. He was devastated and mad, and particularly angry at me, because I was conspiring against him and was the one who convinced Carrie to break up with him. The reality being that when Carrie was avoiding him, she often used to hang out with me as an excuse to not have to be around him. So one day, Carrie heads back to her apartment after class and her front door is unlocked. Annoying, but her roommate was the type who forgot often. She gets into the apartment, and it smells like smoke. Neither she nor her roommate smoked, but her ex did. In her room, on her bed, she sees an umbrella that she did not own and thought she recognized. She ran out of the apartment and called me and spent the night on my futon. Jack had broken into her apartment when she wasn't home and had been in her room. She is scared to contact him, so we decide to play it cool and casual, like it didn't bother us, hoping to convince him to admit it. I ask him on Facebook Messenger, "Hey, did you stop by Carrie's place the other day and forget an umbrella?" He immediately gets defensive and asks if I think he's some sort of stalker. Yeah, that's not a red flag at all. Sometime later, a few months in fact, he still hasn't changed his Facebook status from in a relationship to single, or his profile picture, which was a couple photo, and people have been contacting Carrie about it. She asks me to message him and he gets upset. He sends me essays worth of pent-up feeling he has for her. Here's a quote I pulled up from Messenger that he sent me. "I can't promise that I will completely leave her alone. Resisting the urge to talk to her has been the hardest thing I've ever done. You could always stop me from talking to her. Wednesday morning would be perfect. I'll be home alone sleeping. There's a gun in the silverware drawer. I'm sure you can get my address from Carrie." I told him to get psychiatric help. I did not tell Carrie about the messages because I did not want to upset her. Some parts of the messages were clearly meant for her and not me. But Jack was expecting that I share them with her, and since she had blocked him, he thought I was a good way to get the message across. Eventually, about a month later, he called her from a new number and they had a long talk. and he was talking on the assumption I had showed her the messages he sent me. I got some petty satisfaction that his plans didn't work out. My friend was a bit hurt that I had apparently been talking to him behind her back, but I told her that it was more like him just talking at me. I figured she was removed enough from the relationship to be okay reading the shit he had sent me, and she understood. She was very disturbed. He had lied to her that he was anti-gun when they were together, so the gun might have been new. Anyways, I'm glad that his shenanigans didn't cause beef with one of my best friends. I think he tried breaking into her apartment one last time after that, and there were several drunk calls from his friend's phone. It died down shortly and harshly and painfully, but we haven't heard anything from him in the last couple of years since then. So thankfully that chapter has finally, it seems, come to a close. If you see this, Jack, let's not meet. 3. First things first. Got to rip the band-aid off and admit that from late 2001 to 2003, when I was a teenager, I wrote fanfiction and posted it online. My stories weren't that great, but I made friends because I posted them, so I don't regret doing it. Even after I stopped posting stories, I was still active online and instead posted fan art and dumb stuff about the roleplays I did with my buddies over on DeviantArt. Cringe, cringe. I know, I sound like a lame fangirl, but whatever, I was having fun. Fast forward to 2008, when I got a PM on DA that was, well, I really wasn't expecting online life to take such a strange turn on that particular random day, but the writer, Ari, began her missive by informing me, a complete stranger, that she was seriously mentally ill and listing a wide variety of disorders including schizophrenia, which had tormented her all her life. She then said she was scared to write to me like this, but that she had to do it so she could move on. Move on from what, you ask? From her hatred of me, of course. Ari wrote that she had hated me for a long time based on the fanfiction I wrote, because my stories terrified her. Okay, now let's be clear here. I wrote stories about characters from cartoons and one comic book. One of the characters from that comic was a violent and terrible person, and I wrote him as such. But that's not what was scaring her, no. Ari was scared because she was in love with said violent character, John, and believed they were destined for each other and that he talked to her in her head. She then read my fanfiction, and suddenly John stopped talking to her, and she knew it was because he was talking to me instead. She was absolutely certain that I had stolen her true love from her. She said that after that she developed a belief that I was the arbiter of her reality. More generally, that is a direct quote, I will never forget that phrase, and was capable of reaching into her mind and not only reading but taking away her precious thoughts. This caused her so much anguish and suffering. However, she went on. Deep down she also knew that this was just a delusion caused by her mental illness. Ari closed her PM by begging me to respond to her to confirm that I was just a normal girl, so she could get past this trauma I had caused her and be happy again. Now I have to again rip off the band-aid by inviting judgment here by admitting that sometimes I am a complete dumbass. I am also a soft-hearted person, and the idea that someone could have been harmed by the goofy crap stories I'd posted years earlier made me kinda sad. So I did a soft-hearted but ultimately dumbass thing and responded. Yes, I was a normal teenage girl when I posted that stuff. And now I am a normal early 20s woman with no mind-stealing powers. Also, I didn't know you existed until you sent me this. So how could I have singled you out to hurt you with my fanfics? Please don't worry about me. And I thought, what a kind person I am, and surely that will be the end of it. Wrong. Ari replied to me using a different, upbeat and cheerful tone, saying she was so glad I wrote her back because now she knew she didn't have to fear me, and we could just be friends. She loved my fanfics, honestly. And by the way, what was my real name so she could find me on Facebook? Excuse me? No? A dumbass I may be, but I ain't that stupid. I told her I didn't have a Facebook, a lie, and was busy with school, a truth, so I wouldn't be on DeviantArt a whole lot, a half-truth. But that I wished her good luck with her mental health recovery and hoped she would have a good life, a truth, I mean. So far she just seemed troubled and weird, but I wouldn't have wished harm on her. I didn't get a response to that, but a few months later I got a DAPM from another account I didn't know that simply asked, "Hey Fox Got Socks, how do you get your characters to talk for you?" Now, I hadn't posted any fanfiction for years, but I was still participating in fandom and talked online about writing. And I honestly thought this question was about writing, specifically dialogue. I mulled over how to respond, and ended up not answering right away. I went back to my PMs a few days later and saw I had another new message. This one saying with a lot of exclamation points and crypting-style misspellings that I had to answer and teach this stranger how to talk to my characters, and that I didn't know how long this user had suffered because of me. Oh my goodness, I wonder who it was, using another account. And guess what? I was still a goddamn dumbass. So I answered the first message, but sort of detachedly, ignoring the desperation of the second message, and just kind of giving tips on how to learn a character's voice and how to write dialogue for them. Once again, I got a very chipper reply, including a confession that, yeah, it was Ari, and she just loved talking to me and thought I was so nice and such a good friend to be patient with her and answer her burning questions about how to talk to my, yes, specifically my, characters. Because you see, she realized she was not just in love with John, but in love with my John, from my stupid fanfiction. And now she could talk to him any time because we were friends. I got the idea that she was not asking to roleplay, and instead thought she would be able to communicate directly with this once-removed fictional character now. But I feigned ignorance and said something like, our RP group is kind of private and not accepting new members. But I hope I answered your question, and please have a good day. Because, see, I did not really want to be friends with someone who A, seemed to believe I was somehow responsible for her mental illness and health, despite not knowing her from Adam, and having only spoken to her twice, and B, had already told me once that she hated me and thought I could control her reality. On the kinder side of things, I honestly didn't think continuing to converse would be good for either of our comforts. On the meaner side, I just really didn't want to interact with this person anymore, and felt I had already done more than enough to help this stranger. Okay, so she stopped responding to me, and I thought this strange interlude in my life was over. Wrong! Now fast forward 7 entire years, to early July 2015. At which time I had moved my main online presence to Tumblr. I'd left a note on my DeviantArt account in 2011 when I moved, giving my new Tumblr screen name so my fandom buddies could find me easily. At this point I had not posted any fanfiction for over a decade. I also was not talking much at all online about John, except to reblog the occasional post someone else made about the comic he was from, as you do on Tumblr. Suddenly, I received an anonymous ask. And that ask said in no uncertain terms that I was the cause of the asker's suffering, because I had callously disregarded others' feelings. It closed with some kind of weird threat, I can't remember exactly what now, because I instinctively deleted their ask due to being unnerved. I guessed that it could be Ari, based on the typing style and the fact that there couldn't be 2 people in the world who think I make them suffer, right? But it had been 7 years, so I wasn't entirely sure. And then I did yet another dumbass thing. I made a post that said something along the lines of, "To the anon that just sent me a vaguely threatening ask. Sorry if anything I've posted upset you. Please let me know if I can tag any of my posts a certain way, so you can block whatever content you find distressing." A couple days later I got another anon ask calling me a prattling, ostentatious idiot. Direct quote, and saying it doesn't work that way and strong emotions cannot just be blocked. The message went on. "You stole him away from me and I've been living in turmoil since you don't care." Ah yes, definitely Ari. There was no question about it. After all, I haven't stolen someone else's fictional boyfriend, that I know of. I turned off anonymous asks. I also went back to my old untouched DeviantArt account where I found a comment on my front page from yet a third account there that said, "If you still talk to him, tell him that I love him and that I always will. He was the first man I ever loved, and it was your version of him I loved above all. I have been jealous, angry at you, angry at myself, depressed and psychotic. I tore myself to shreds over him, and my heart aches and cries. The first cut is the deepest. I love you, John. The date on this message was June 28th, 2015, just a few days before the first anon-ask on Tumblr. I did a little internet sleuthing, just a simple Google of Ari's known usernames, and found her Fur Affinity account, where she had been posting repeated screeds in her journal about hating anyone else who wrote or drew anything about John. Okay. I also discovered through this Google search that I was not completely special in triggering Ari's ire, and that she had also gone after another person on Tumblr in much the same way, demanding answers to emotionally charged asks, assuming friendship where there wasn't any, and stalking the person using multiple accounts and email addresses, and accusing them of harming her. This other person had amassed a collection of screenshots of Ari's behavior, and it was really super not good. Anyway, I figured since I'd blocked anon-asks, maybe she'd just go away. Wrong! Ari's next wave of stuff began in 2016, when someone started reblogging my personal text posts with cryptic comments like, "You have a beautiful soul." The username was nothing like Ari or any of the other account names she'd used before, so I just thought someone was being socially awkward. But after a few months of this, I received a PM from this account through Tumblr's chat function that let the cat out of the bag. This person said something like, "I am a British female creature with insert litany of mental illnesses from Ari's first PM in 2008, and I'm so scared of dying alone and friendless. I used to read your fanfiction and it always made me feel better. I think you're an amazing woman and would like to get to know you better. Please, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone in the dark." Well, this sure sounded a lot like Ari to me. This was confirmed when I went to the person's Tumblr and saw that they had recently posted something passive-aggressive about that other Tumblr user Ari was known to stalk. And if that wasn't enough, they also had a lot of weird-laden posts about John and a couple other characters, including Sherlock, and a man I didn't recognize, who they claimed to have legally married. It was at that point I finally decided to stop being a soft-hearted dumbass. I blocked the account that PM'd me right away without responding. Over the next several months, Ari attempted to contact others on Tumblr who it was obvious I talked to a lot. My girlfriend, our best friend, etc. She sent them messages like the one quoted above, hilarious in the case of my girlfriend who never wrote any fanfiction, begging for their friendship and also, just casually asking what I was doing, whether they could get me to talk to her, that sort of thing. I know my girlfriend and BFF blocked her too, after they asked me who the hell this person was, and I told them the whole story. I also discovered that on Tumblr you can choose an option to allow PMs only from people you know. With that account blocked, and no one I don't follow able to PM me chat messages, I naively thought again that surely this weird nonsense would end. WRONG. See, the thing about Tumblr, if you're not familiar with the website, is that if you block someone, they just can't interact with your posts or follow you. A block causes someone to auto-unfollow you, and they won't see your posts on their dash feed. However, they can still go to your actual blog, username.tumblr.com, and see everything you post. If they try to interact with any of your posts on your blog, reply, blog, like, they won't be able to, which will, of course, tip them off that you blocked them. Beginning in 2018, Ari engaged in a whirlwind of activity. She made a new account, sent me an Ask Her 15 saying things varying from, "Please talk to me, I'm harmless. You don't know how hard it is to be me," to, "I'm scared of the darkness," to, "Humans are social animals and I'm dying without you," to, "I guess you like psychos like John but can't handle a real psycho like me," to, "I want to kidnap you, far away in a happy ending, my darling." So I blocked that account immediately. She made a new account and reblogged some post I'd made a while back about John's comic book with a comment like, "My first love, the first cut is the deepest," before sending me multiple asks all saying, "You stole him from me." So I blocked that account immediately. She made another one, made some meme generator sparkly pictures of rats and spiders with text like, "I just want to sit next to you and be your friend. I'm not scary," and posted them with at my username so this mention would show up in my Dash's activity feed. So I blocked that account. So she made a new account, posted a quote from my favorite author, well-known info, I post about him frequently, sent me a couple asks saying that this author would disagree with how I was treating her by continuing to block and shun her friendship. when she was harmless and just thought I was an amazing person. So I blocked that account. Mate, did you forget you called me a prattling, ostentatious idiot and threatened me? Because I sure haven't. This went on for 10 accounts, one of which had the blog title in huge letters at the top. Hello, my nickname reserved only for close friends. One of which she inundated with photos of herself glaring at the camera, my first looks at her face. And I don't like to judge people on appearance, but this girl had a really creepy glare and also looks like she had not showered in weeks, adding me in each one. I started trying to report her to Tumblr after the third or fourth time for making multiple accounts simply to evade my blocks. But if you know anything about Tumblr, you can guess they didn't respond with more than an automated, "Okay, we'll look into this. In the meantime, have you tried blocking this user?" Anyway, throughout 2018, I just had to deal with the fact that any time I saw the little red flag above my Ask icon, it would probably be something creepy and either threatening or passive-aggressive from Ari that would put me on edge for a few hours. I haven't gotten anything from her so far in 2019, but I figure as long as she's out there, there's always that chance she'll come back. Maybe not right away. Maybe not until another 10 years from now, but let me just say, Ari, you fucking weirdo! I'm genuinely sorry about your mental illnesses, but while they may explain your behavior, they don't excuse it. I am not, and will never be your friend, because you are not harmless. You made me heavily curtail my social interaction on Tumblr by cutting off a couple of methods of communication. You made me worried about ever talking there about a comic I enjoy. You made it so anytime I see I have an ask, my heart rate goes up because it might be more of your disturbing bullshit. You've harassed my loved ones, and also other strangers who also probably didn't do anything to deserve it, etc. I don't control your reality, but if I did, you can bet I'd use that power to ensure we'd never meet. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 376. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now regarding the videos I deleted a few days ago, the neckbeard videos, I will re-upload them in some form after I remove the Drac stories from them, because the author contacted me and told me the stories were mostly made up, or were certainly a composite of different people's experiences, and she was feeling guilty about having done that. Apparently one of the versions of Drac, because there was multiple people, was autistic and she met and bred. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to go into it. But she wanted the stories removed, which I did because I'm not a dick. But I was very disappointed because removing all 4 of those videos, I lost over 200,000 views. Yeah. Because there's no facility for editing a video once it's uploaded to YouTube. If you use YouTube's edit feature, which I'm not even sure if they have anymore, it just posts a new video is what it does. So you'd be as well just deleting them than editing them yourself, which is what I'm going to do. Anyway, if you're wondering where they are, that's what's happened. I'll get them back up when I can. It's a matter of finding time to essentially make four new videos. As well as making the regular content for the channel. So, I'll pop them back up when I can, because there's still some good stuff in there, even without those stories. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.